Hey guys, welcome to another live Play&Explain video. On the right we have 200 zoom, on the left we have a 500 zoom pool, which is rarely alive, but right now it is. Only regulars though, so we can't have the biggest expectation in terms of winning money, but good for video and good for like a battleground where we don't play for too high stakes, but we play versus good opponents. 9-7 suited, sometimes free betting. Gonna put it in this time. Pretty good board for us, I would say, because the board is quite low. It probably doesn't have all the 5s and deuces. It's not as creative as if it was big blind versus MP, because in those positions he also still has ace queen offsuit, and he also still has some deuces and 5s. So if this was big blind versus Anagan, for example, I would probably just go ahead and half pot, because I think the board would be even better. Also check turn, really high betting frequency for me, but I think 9-7 seems like the absolute nut low candidate, blocking 9s and 7s, which are, I mean, 9s probably can't fold on the turn, but having a 7 in my hand is not too great, because pocket 7s cause flop folds turn. And now I actually have an awesome check jam candidate, blocking the river set, and also blocking queen 9 suited, which is probably one of the stronger hands which he arrives with in this line. Like queen 10 suited, queen 9 suited. Of course, sometimes he has king queen, ace queen, but those are going to quite often stab flop already. So I think the option is between check call and jam. But yeah, I don't mind jamming this one. I also roll really high, so let's go for it. I think his main bet folds are going to be hands like ace check. Maybe even like a hand like queen 9, so you could maybe argue that the hand like 6-7 would be better. Yeah, that sucks. When people bet call off the bottom of the range versus your river jam, so that always doesn't feel too great, but nice hand to him. Yeah, that's why you have to keep your frequencies in check versus players who don't mind clicking the call button. Because if I always do this with like every 9-7, every 7-6, every 7-8, it's quite easy to overdo it. So make sure to look at the RNG versus those opponents. But yeah, not really sure if 7-6 or 9-7 is better. Depends on if you think blocking queen 9 is a good thing or not. I think the main value hands that arrive in these lines are also pocket checks, ace queen aces, which take the passive road on the turn. So yeah, probably because ace queen, I definitely can see myself sometimes checking. Aces and kings, quite easy to don't check them enough on the turn. So you can see how you wind up over bluffing the spot. So yeah, nice call to him. King 6, not really a hand that raises pre-flop. Too strong to 3-bet for value, too weak to 3-bet as a bluff, sort of to speak. Definitely need to check back some flushes here, but going to bet more often than not. On the turn, I think I just like overbet check, and I'm just saying, hey, I have the nut flush, or I have a bluff, or maybe some like sets which have some merge properties because they sometimes get called by 2-pair. And yeah, I think maybe some, yeah, I don't even think I want to bet second nuts too often, but I definitely don't want to bet it if I also block another flush. Like, would rather bet king check with the king in spades than this one. Running out of time, that sucks. Facing a 3/4 bet, I actually think that I want to raise versus this. Not sure if it's not a bit too thin, but I also wonder if the sizing is protected. Quite easy to go for like a block 3-bet or an overbet or a check raise if you have the nuts, and I think 3/4 quite often is a bit more face up. Playing versus a presumed recreational player. Jack 6 mix between 3-bet and call. Face an inside check. It is also a board on which he almost needs to range check. And I think this is a combo which is quite often gonna step, roll really high. Always calling pocket sevens. Facing a 25% c-bet. Don't think we get to fold. Board I would expect to face quite a lot of checks. Sizing here would be half pot. Definitely could see this hand sometimes barreling, but I also think I have to check my frequencies a bit. It's easy to start over bluffing here. Benefits of betting is I immediately get better hands to fold, like for example a hand like king 9 in hearts. But of course I also run into a lot of hands that that are pair plus flush draw, which are never gonna fold. This is 1-bet. Also close, and versus a small sizing, how bad can it be to click call? Don't need to win the pot too often. Of course, you are not incredibly happy facing this, but he still has like older king queen, king check, queen 10, Jack 10 that he didn't bet the turn with, so a lot of potential bluff candidates, and we get a good price. So how bad can it be to click the call button? Just gonna fold here. Ace 10 suited, sometimes 4-betting. This time I'm gonna call. Face the flat from a recreational player, presumably. Snap checks back. Interesting. I think betting small or checking seems decent. Here we just go for the call. And again, going to call. Don't expect him, if he has like pocket fives, to value bet the river. And okay, he has almost the same hand as we, but not quite. Face another half pot bet. If we bet any bigger, then I think we would mostly jam. I think jamming still could be decent, but the problem is he doesn't have king, queen offsuit in those positions. So yeah, I think we're still mostly clicking the call button. That's a nice row. Was just thinking, if this was small blind button, it's quite easy to barrel a bit too much with king, queen, when you have all the king, queen, king, jack offsuit hands, and then you are of course a bit more incentivized to jam for protection. But in those positions you would also get called by a lot of worse 10x, and in those positions if I get called, I'm pretty dead. So I think I like my call on the turn. And we face the snap fold, that's unfortunate. I think probably my opponent should have quite a high frequency of blocks on the ace row. Still would want to value bet like basically jacks plus, or like maybe queens plus in those positions. Face the min bet, which is a good, decent strategy on those boards. Okay, I like the recreational because it free bets this large. Yeah, this hand definitely needs to continue. Backdoor flush, backdoor straight. And I think we start bluffing now quite a lot. Sizing, I think, just 3/4, basically wanting to value bet an ace. I don't think in this line we really want to start value betting very thin. Not a high frequency c-bet board at all, but my hand seems like an okay candidate, and I roll really high. Really interesting spot. I think I still can value bet probably a hand like ace jack, ace 10, despite the flush getting there. So I think a 3/4 sizing still makes some sense, and I think I want to always bluff this hand. Just as really great unblockers. Let's say the hand like jack 10, I think that would be the hand that would want to give up on the river, especially without a heart, but having two really low cards that don't really connect with the board should make for a really good candidate to bluff. Unfortunately we do get called, and I think we have yet to win a pot at 500 soon, which is unfortunate, but sometimes you just get put into those 0v spots all the time and you just have to make the best out of it. Gonna review this one later, but I think it's fine. think the flop call should be good, think the turn step should be good, and I also think, I mean, maybe you only bluff one hard combos on a river, but as I said, I think I would still be value betting like some ace-10, ace-jack. And it's also not like a flush, every flush wants to start blasting when my opponent has all the ace-queens, which I can never have. So I think having a 3/4 sizing wise makes sense. Folding. And this hand also seems like a decent bluff candidate because of the unblocker properties, despite not having a heart in my hand. I think. Could be wrong, of course. And his hand, I think, also is a really nice bluff catcher because the 9 hearts quite obviously like never blocks a bluff, only blocks. I mean, to be fair, it doesn't really block value either because if I have 9x in hearts, I'm never betting the turn. So it's just like a complete unblocker. But the same goes for the king. So he just has 2 cards in his hands, which I'm never gonna bluff with. So seems like a decent candidate to bluff catch. While let's say at a hand like queen check with the check in hearts, he's in a spot where the check in hearts is blocking my bluffs, but also my value hands. So it's not really clear what is better for calling. Facing the overbet, I think versus this overbet, we do always need to call. If you went for a 250% sizing, we do get to start folding some top pairs. But it's even in the realm of possibility that he might have a similar hand to mine, although unlikely. And that's also not a great river. Really tough for him to find a lot of bluffs now. And yeah, I think definitely just folding. A nice hand to him if he found the, like even a hand like 5-4 is a straight now, right? So king, queen, queen 10, those hands are not really turn probes, so not the easiest of river to come up with enough bluffs, in my opinion. Pocket 3s, pocket 5s get there. I'm really struggling to find a bluff in my head other than maybe, yeah, maybe sometimes has those queen 10 with a spade. But yeah, I don't think those get to be actually all that aggressive. 8-6 finger just folded. Check 8-5. Decent board with a somewhat high c-bet frequency. Don't think I always get to bets though. I'm playing versus a competent opponent who I assume will have some check raises. So let's go ahead and go for a check back this time. His bet sizing here should be quite polarized. Does go for another check. I think my hand is probably again a mixed strategy here between betting 3/4 and checking. But I imagine quite a lot of checking. Table 1 half pot check. Gonna go for the c-bet this time. Goes for a half pot bet sizing, indicating a hand like maybe pocket 10s. Having an ace I think is quite bad. I think also having the 4 and club diamonds here is quite bad, because a hand like 6, 4 and diamonds would now fold, so would rather not have a flush draw blocker here. But I think the ace might be bad, because a hand that would be a natural bluff, it would be a hand like ace 4 suited, or ace 10, although to be fair, ace 10 probably mostly probes the turn. Yeah, not super sure on this one. But like king, queen, king 10, queen 10, those hands are all connecting with the turn. It doesn't get to probe them all the time, of course, but I think they don't arrive the river extremely often, maybe. Table 1 we play versus a recreational player. Think a lot of different plans that you could have, but checking back and then letting him tell you what he has is not bad. So now just going ahead and betting big twice, thinking he doesn't have a strong hand that he checks twice to me, seems like decent plan to me. Or I feel like bet small, you could also start raising. So a lot of different possibilities. Close to value betting, of course you can still have, we do have the read that we think he's weak, but that doesn't mean that he can never have a strong hand. Also you could easily have like river 2 pair. I think I'm fine going for a check back, and he does have the straight, so the reads did not apply. He did in fact snap check the nuts, so we're gonna mark this one so that we have some reference for the future. Ace 8 is kind of interesting on the turn. We do get a lot of better ace-x to fold. There's also some advantages of not having a flush draw blocker, because a lot of flush draws are also folding down the turn. So that's pretty close. I rolled right high, and I think it's fine to put those hands in sometimes. Important to not only have equity plus. Of course, I would rather bet a hand like an even lower kicker ace, although ace 8 has the advantage of having 2 overcards to the 7, which is relevant because he has like some 7x in hearts, so we are drawing life versus those hands. So I think it's a decent candidate to put into the overbet range. And here we think we can go for a check raise or a check call. And yeah, I think ace 8 is like the strongest ace that I would go for this line. Like ace 9 definitely is a check. And on a queen here, after check raising, we need to slow down quite a bit with hand and range. We do river and 8, which is interesting. Almost feels strong enough to value bet, but probably would just value cut ourselves too much versus 9s, 10s, and even check X that doesn't bet. I think ace8 is a call versus 2.2. Check turn, a turn on which we need to be really passive. He improves quite a lot to pocket checks. King check, check 9. So yeah, we need to be quite passive, and our hand of course checks anyway. Don't get a lot of action with our strong hands today, unfortunately. Facing the check, we have a really easy check back. Turn, I would expect a lot of checks again, because if you had a strong hand, you moved the c-bet flop. And again, on this sort of texture, we are not really incentivized to bet a hand like sevens. We want to go ahead and be quite polarized. So we always check this one back again. If he goes for another check, then it starts to get close between value betting and checking behind. I mean, in theory, I don't think we would get to value bet, and yeah, versus this sizing, I think this is just a snap call. Raising is too thin, folding is out of the question, and yeah, he had a weaker hand, which is a perfectly fine value bet by him. But I think sevens would be a bit too thin to start value raising here. But yeah, probably like a 9, I think, is around where the threshold is. Quite a small 3-bet sizing here from our opponent, but I think king 7 is still a bit too weak. That is a really tiny raise size, so it sucks to fold. But I think, yeah, probably like every suited ace, every pocket pair, every suited connector should call us with this. Facing the 3-bet, I think we definitely get to fold quite a lot of pairs already, and on a somewhat low roll, we go for the fold. Let's see if we can also win a pot. Maybe here this guy seems like probably recreational. Yeah, he lets us take one. That's good. Queen 9, always calling. Same goes for the flop. Don't really see myself ever raising this one. Facing a big bet, so we already get to fold like some gut shots, some pocket pairs. Interesting spot on the turn. Cannot fold, of course. We do need to find some raises. but it's also really easy to overdo it. Having the queen hearts is quite nice, but yeah, majority calling. Not sure if, wonder if I rather raise a hand like queen 10 or, I mean queen 10 it doesn't block pocket 10s because he never bets pocket 10s big probably. Yeah, probably queen 9 is a better raise than queen 10 I imagine. Also don't think I get to donk on the river. Table 1 block check. And I even think we do need to check back this sort of hand sometimes again. But most of the time we go for the c-bet. Pretty nice candidate to go for a check raise. Those bottom pair low kicker with a backdoor flush draw are quite good. And it's also easy to over c-bet on those boards as well. Facing the check back, I think here I would like to go over bet check with based around a strong queen. My hand always checks. And facing a bet, I think we could either check raise or check call probably. Face the very small 4-bet here from this guy. So yeah, definitely can't fold versus this sizing. But not our flop. For this sizing, definitely could also value bet some is highs. I think for the most part, we are just clicking the call button. Yeah, here we are out of there, unfortunately. Pretty close versus the sizing. Range check on the 6-5-4 two-tone board. I think quite intuitive to most players nowadays. And also nothing we can do versus a stab. Especially versus a big stab. I think it's quite easy on those boards to actually overcall by a decent margin. I think if you have a hand like ace queen with a spade, it's quite easy to click call there, which is not really something that you should be doing. Roll pretty high, so let's go for the 4-bet this time. Great board for us, we get to bet range. Basically it's great because not only do we still have our overpairs, but also hands like ace king are quite strong on this board, while he has a lot of hands like king queen, king check, which are yeah, not all that great on this board. Presumably a recreational player here. I think going for either small c-bet. It will depend on what sort of recreational player he is. Without reads, it's tough to say which line performs best. But going for a small c-bet and see how he reacts towards it can't be too bad. On monoboards, recreationals often go completely haywires and just chip it in if they have like 10s without the diamond because they are trying to protect their hand. So I think yeah, a small bet can lead to quite some spews from some recreationals. Don't even get to see a flop with the 8-7, that's unfortunate. Decent board for us, but it's still king with two somewhat low cards, so I think we still need to be somewhat careful. So we don't get to bad range, but we roll 96, so don't think this hand always checks, because the overall betting frequency is still somewhat high. Could actually see like some point of free betting here. I'm blocking all the backdoor flush draws, but probably be an overkill. Yeah, let's just fold and move on. I think this would be probably too much, but sometimes you see it when you unblock the backdoor flush draw. Of course, it's disadvantageous because you don't have additional equity, but at the same time you have nice unblocking effects where you make it more likely that he has a hand like Jack 5, 10-5 suited or something that he raises the flop with, which is only going to do if he has a backdoor flush draw and not if he doesn't have one. So that's actually an advantage. Versus the small blind fat, I think I need to be really tight, because I imagine 6s and 7s could make up a decent portion of it. So gonna choose to bet small and infrequent, but with my hand I'm going to bet at a higher frequency. Also half pot I think would be decent. Don't want to bet bigger than half pot though, because I think he has probably a lot more nuts than me. Or at least all of us have the sets, but I think he has a set a lot more often than me. So yeah, betting small and infrequent seems like a decent strategy. Not always stabbing with the queen 8. Interesting. I actually think that ace jack in clubs always wants to check back, because a lot of flush draws, even versus a small sizing, are already indifferent and start to fold, which are drawing dead versus us, so we really don't want those hands out of the pot. So I think ace jack with a flush draw actually always wants to check here, would be my guess. And I think here we can start betting now. And in the check-check line, now we start to depolarize more. And I think a half pot sizing is probably pretty good to value bet some 9x and go a bit thinner. And then we definitely can also start betting a hand like this. And yeah, gonna value bet the river and throw up if he face the jam. And here I think this is exactly the sort of hand with two high or middling cards and no spade, which is mostly gonna like bluff once and then give up. And I think this is, yeah, a hand that he should probably pure fold on the turn. Oh man. 6-7 suited. Yeah, I might just call him off, man. It's basically really only 6s and 7s. Of course he has it. But if you have 7-6 suited, like that's already enough bluffs, I feel like. I don't think he flats Jack 7 or Jack 6 suited in the small blind. So he really only wraps 6 combos of value combos, which he also checked on the turn and then checks again on the river. So yeah, if he bluffs 6-7, then I think if he always bluffs all the 6-7, then it's an overbluff and the call should make money, but yeah. Fortunately, running into it. Ace-10 can't fold versus the small free bet. A small raise, I should say. And this is probably just a turn where I get to donk range. Because he can still raise bullshit hands, and I can't really call bullshit hands. Interesting spot. I think when I have a 9 that doesn't block any PI, I just want to put into the betting range. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I guess he just has a 7. Can't really fold. Could free bet, but again, can't always free bet, otherwise I'm massively over bluffing. So I guess he's going to click the check back button now and has a 7. But here's what it is. Oh, he goes for the jam. Either way, we are out of here. Yeah, not going my way so far this session, and this is like the second session that I'm recording, so that's why I might already be a bit tired. But the 500 swing pool was running and did not want to waste the opportunity to make some content. But yeah, not getting into quite a lot of ugly spots. I suppose on this hand he could also have like 9-8. Problem is he could also have like the same hand, he could also have ace jack and go for that line. So you would need some pretty sick reasoning to bet fold this hand, I would imagine. And our opponent is a high stakes player who's known for his aggression, so how bad can the call be here? And like I said, I think for the most part he reps 6s and 7s, and yeah, that's not a whole lot of combos, right? So he opened really small, so we started to flat the small blind. And I think I could even start thinking about developing a donking range. But it's also quite possible people are just over c-betting, so you don't really need the donks anyway. Roll really high, so let's go for the check raise. Paired boards, you want to play quite an aggressive check raise strategy anyway. Get the fold this time. And recording for 45 minutes, so think gonna play a couple more hands and then call it a session. We'll play a depolarized strategy here, so like half pot check. Ace 10 doesn't make it into it. Interesting. I think this is actually a good candidate to go for another check. I expect him to value bet every 10. 9s, 8s probably see that flop quite often. And with the ace kicker, I just reduce the likelihood that he's checking back. So I think I like this hand as a trap to check call. And yeah, did get our value versus the weaker 10. So if I see if we would have checked this somehow back, which you might see at lower stakes, people not value betting thin enough, then of course checking ace-10 on the river would be a disastrous play. But when you expect your opponent to find the proper value bets, then you can start thinking like blocker oriented and have the thought process of, hey, I have the ace, so if I have an ace, it makes it more likely that he does not check back, which is what I want with my hand. I want a 3/4 bet. If I check, he's going to bet a 3/4 sizing. So yeah, think along those lines. Anyway, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And make sure to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and see you in the next one. Bye.